Hi folks, this is all the fruit. And where do the fruit come from? Well, if you think they all come from those nice little beautiful romantic gardens, nope. A lot of the fruit and fruity veg you get in the standard supermarkets come from those greenhouses, especially in Europe. Basically, in the winter months, stuff like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers used to come from all those Spanish greenhouses you can see here. I'm here on the Canary Island of Gran Canaria, in the west of the island, in the valley of the town of La Aldea, which is probably the last really agricultural town of Gran Canaria. The Canary Islands, their business is tourism, and in Gran Canaria basically all the towns are either tourist towns or just administrative towns, but this I would say is the only one, the only real agricultural town with a teeny tiny bit of tourism. Well, maybe tourism and all those greenhouses, they don't like each other. Why am I making a video about the greenhouses? I'm usually traveling around finding the most exotic and most rare fruit, but I wanted to make a video about where the normal fruit come from. So what do they grow in these greenhouses? Tons of bananas, tons of tomatoes, tons of papayas, and also a lot of other stuff like peppers, cucumbers, eggplants. Why do they grow them in the greenhouses? Well, they can also grow them outside. Here you can see a couple banana plantations which are grown not in a greenhouse but outdoors. So why do they all build those ugly, disgusting, expensive greenhouses which destroy the whole countryside and create tons and tons of plastic waste? Well, yeah, they are very ugly. They use a lot of plastic. Also, of course, they use a lot of water and a ton of pesticides, and we really don't have enough water here on the Canary Island. And once they get abandoned, they look more or less like this here for decades until everything is rotting away. But what are the alternatives? I mean, we want fruit and veg in winter. We want cheap tomatoes and peppers. Okay, we could get the bananas from South America. They really don't need to grow the bananas here. But for good papayas, South America is a little bit far away. So if you want good papayas and good tomatoes and peppers in winter, we are stuck with places like southern Spain. For the last couple decades, 80% of all the fruit and veg in winter, which are grown in winter, came from southern Spain for all of Europe. Most of them from Andalusia, from the province of Almeria, from the so-called Costa del Plástico, which looks like this, but only with white plastic for dozens of kilometers. But a lot of it also comes from the Canary Islands. So why the greenhouses? Why those ugly greenhouses? There must be a reason for that. Well, the Canary Islands are very windy, and sensitive plants like tomatoes, papayas, peppers, also bananas, they really suffer from the harsh winds. So hide them in a greenhouse, and you have no trouble except with the strongest storms. Also, as you can see from the countryside here, from the sun, we are in the last days of November. We are basically in a semi-desert. Evaporation is a big problem, and water is very scarce. All the artificial lakes in the mountains are pretty much empty. Most of the farms here are watering with water from reverse osmosis. And reverse osmosis water, yeah, you don't just get it from a spring or a river, you have to make it from salt water. And it's expensive. And if you cover your plants, yeah, you get the so-called greenhouse effect. It's hot inside the greenhouse and it's humid, and the humidity stays in there. Neither sun nor wind extract too much humidity from the greenhouse. So basically those greenhouses, they save what? 50, 60, 70, 80% of water for those plantations. Most of the greenhouses here are made from some sort of fleece, not from plastic. Of course, those will not save so much water, but the ventilation is better. The ones which are made from plastic, well, the ventilation is really bad, but they are saving a lot more water. So basically, yeah, there doesn't seem to be a real alternative to all those greenhouses. if you don't have the greenhouses, you need a lot more water and you risk a lot more damage to the plants. And I said for the last decade, southern Spain has been the main supplier of Europe for all those greenhouse fruit and veg. Why? Well, because places like the Netherlands, which used to be the main supplier a couple decades before that, they started with a huge scale greenhouse stuff, but they had to heat the greenhouses in winter. And even places like southern France, most of Italy, they don't have so much heat in winter and they don't have so much sun in winter, while the south of Spain and the Canary Islands, they basically have no real winter. It gets a little bit colder, but basically the stuff can grow all year round. The biggest problem is water, and that's why they have the greenhouses. However, 15 years ago this business was booming, and even nowadays we saw a couple greenhouses which are being built or rebuilt, but as you can see, a lot of those greenhouses are abandoned. Why? Well, different reasons. There is this water scarcity. As I said, they have to use water from reverse osmosis, which is very expensive, and a lot of them go broke. And the other reason is, the business has moved even further south into places like Morocco. For decades, a lot of the work in southern Spain and on the Canary Islands, especially in southern Spain, not so much on the Canary Islands, was done by Moroccans. And finally, the Spanish started joint ventures with former Moroccan workers, and basically moved the plantations to Spain, to Morocco. Know-how and money from Spain, space and laborers from Morocco. And so now the stuff can be produced for a fraction of the price in Morocco. That's why, despite it still being a big business here, and the main business of the town of La Aldea, it's decreasing. Even 10 years ago in southern Spain on the Costa del Plástico it was decreasing. As you can see, most of the plantations on the steep slopes have been abandoned. Here behind me the plantations are still there because it's a plateau. Down at the river they are still there. On the not so steep slopes, a lot of them are abandoned, but a lot of them are still there. So yeah, it's decreasing. I think in 10 or 15 years there will be just a fraction of all those greenhouses in this valley. Good for the landscape, probably even good for the environment, but I don't know what those people here are gonna do in 10 to 15 years. They'll have to develop a lot of tourism, which is quite a problem in those difficult times in 2020 and maybe even the years after that. And also I don't know where us Europeans will get our fruit and veg in winter. Will Morocco be able to take over from Spain and supply all of Europe? Will Morocco remain stable? Will we have a stable supply of more or less cheapish fruit and veg in winter? For now, a large part of those things are still grown in those greenhouses in southern Spain and on the Canary Islands. But nobody knows really how it will develop in the next years and decades. There are still a lot of subsidies for this agriculture, but when the subsidies run out, a lot of those farms will go broke, which will be a big disaster for this town and other places in Spain. Well, folks, I really would like to hear your comments, your opinion on all those growing all the fruit and veg in those greenhouses. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it a thing that needs to be abolished? Is it a thing that needs to be preserved? Is it a thing that needs to be modified and changed and then preserved? Please give me your opinion. It's a very controversial subject, especially in Spain, but also throughout the world. But yeah, tell me an alternative. What shall we do instead of those huge greenhouses? What should those people work in the future? Where should we get our fruit and veg? How shall we save this countryside from the ugly ruins of the destroyed greenhouses? Apart from that, folks, stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the beautiful island of Gran Canaria. And don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe.